What if we told you that one of Africa's smallest nations just showed the world what true independence looks like, defying the very notion that African countries are forever dependent on Western aid? In the face of former President Trump's decision to ban USAID to Africa, Burkina Faso, under the audacious leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, wiped out its $4.79 billion debt without a single dollar from the West. No foreign loans, no compromises, just a nation taking control of its destiny. While others may choose to keep Africa in perpetual dependency, Traoré has shown that Africa's financial sovereignty isn't just a dream, it's a reality in the making. How did he do it? What strategies did he employ to transform a nation once overshadowed by its wealthier neighbors into a shining symbol of sovereignty and independence? This is not just the story of Burkina Faso. It is a Pan-African narrative that must be shared across the continent. Ibrahim Traoré is not merely a leader. He is a revolutionary, challenging the status quo when so many leaders are content with maintaining the old oppressive structures. Burkina Faso was on the brink when he took office, mired in debt, its resources pillaged, and its sovereignty under siege by years of economic mismanagement. Despair was widespread, and many thought the only way forward was more loans from Western powers or international institutions. This path, so often followed by nations in crisis, was not the one Traoré chose. He dared to chart a bold, audacious course. Traoré recognized that Burkina Faso had everything it needed to thrive independently. The key was unlocking the nation's potential and rallying the people around a shared vision of self-reliance. His approach was groundbreaking, but risky. By rejecting the safety of foreign aid, he exposed the country to severe economic challenges. Yet this very boldness laid the foundation for a transformation that not only erased the national debt, but also set the country on a new trajectory, one defined by self-determination and African solidarity. This is the essence of Traoré's story, a challenge to the entrenched systems that have kept African nations in perpetual dependence. The numbers were grim when he took over: $4.79 billion in debt for a nation with little economic infrastructure. But where others saw obstacles, Traoré saw opportunities. The debt was not an insurmountable mountain. It was a challenge to be overcome. The military and people rallied behind the vision that Burkina Faso's wealth would never again be drained by foreign interests. As Traoré boldly declared, "Our wealth has turned us into victims. At all costs, the imperialists seek wealth to reassert their dominance over us. But Burkina Faso will never surrender. We will defend it, for we are proud and worthy people." The West and their allies, who thought Burkina Faso would return to its colonial chains, have failed. Traoré's refusal to bow to foreign debt and aid is a loud message to the world. Africa will never again kneel in subjugation. We will fight for our freedom and sovereignty until the end. Our independence is non-negotiable. One of Traoré's first actions was to stop the hemorrhaging of the country's wealth. Despite having vast natural resources, especially gold, Burkina Faso's wealth had been largely controlled by foreign companies that reaped enormous profits while contributing little to the nation's development. Under Traoré's leadership, contracts were renegotiated to ensure that Burkina Faso received a fairer share of its resources, ending decades of exploitation. This is just the beginning. Burkina Faso is showing the world that African nations can stand on their own, and the West's grip on our economies is weakening. This is the African Renaissance. This is our moment. The struggle for true independence is being led by courageous leaders like Ibrahim Traoré, who are rewriting the narrative of African liberation. And the message is clear. Africa's future lies in our own hands, not in the hands of foreign powers or aid. Furthermore, Traoré took decisive action against the illicit mining operations that had siphoned millions of dollars from the country's resources. This was just one part of the broader financial reform. Traoré's administration also focused on strict budgetary discipline. Government funds were redirected toward crucial sectors like infrastructure development and debt repayment, while unnecessary spending was cut. The goal was never about austerity for austerity's sake. It was about ensuring that every dollar spent contributed directly to the country's future. But perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of Traoré's strategy was his ability to involve the entire population in the process. He framed debt repayment not as a governmental duty, but as a national mission, a collective responsibility for every citizen. This sense of shared accountability became the driving force behind Burkina Faso's economic recovery. But why was repaying the debt so essential? For Burkina Faso, and many other African nations, debt represents more than just financial figures. It's a tool of control. For decades, Burkina Faso was trapped in a cycle of dependence, ensnared by global financial institutions. These loans often came with a heavy price tag. Structural adjustment programs that restricted a nation's sovereignty by dictating where its money should go, how its industries should operate, and even how its resources should be managed. Under this system, foreign interests were prioritized over local needs, ensuring that debt repayments took precedence over the development of the country. For instance, Burkina Faso's agricultural sector, which employs a significant portion of the population, was severely impacted by these programs. Structural adjustment policies often led to market liberalization, reducing subsidies for local farmers and flooding the market with cheap imported goods. While this may have increased competition on paper, it devastated local production, leading to decreased food security and growing dependence on foreign imports. This was a direct attack on Burkina Faso's sovereignty, an economic subjugation disguised as progress. Traoré understood this power dynamic. For him, debt was more than just a financial burden. It was a manifestation of external dominance. Each dollar owed to foreign creditors was a dollar that could not be used to build critical infrastructure, schools, or hospitals. Worse yet, each foreign-imposed policy eroded Burkina Faso's ability to govern itself. This loss of freedom was felt by everyday citizens, not just politicians or economists. To Traoré, repaying the debt was not just about balancing the books. It was about breaking free from a system that had kept African nations trapped in cycles of dependency and poverty. This wasn't just an economic decision. It was a political act of liberation. By paying off its debt, Burkina Faso regained the autonomy to make decisions that prioritized the welfare of its people, rather than meeting the demands of foreign institutions. Moreover, the psychological impact of erasing the debt was immense. For years, Burkina Faso had been burdened by a sense of shame, an internalized belief that the country and Africa as a whole could never thrive without the support of wealthier, developed nations. Erasing this debt was more than just an economic victory. It was a powerful declaration of pride and self-reliance. Burkina Faso, and by extension Africa, no longer had to beg for assistance. The nation was now in control of its own destiny. This financial liberation set the stage for even more transformative changes, proving that the path to true freedom, economic, political, and cultural, lies in the hands of African people, not external forces. It was a bold statement to the world. Africa will no longer be defined by its dependence on the West, but by its strength, sovereignty, and self-determination. Once Burkina Faso cleared its debt, the nation gained the freedom to direct resources toward internal development. With the burden of foreign debt lifted, Traoré's government could invest in education, equipping future generations with the skills to lead and innovate. It could improve healthcare, bringing essential services to underserved areas and ensuring that no citizen was left behind. Infrastructure could be expanded, connecting communities, boosting trade, and creating a more integrated nation. In essence, paying off the debt was not just about financial freedom. It was the gateway to self-determination, allowing Burkina Faso to regain control over its destiny and direct its resources toward the betterment of its people. However, the most revolutionary aspect of Traoré's decision wasn't just the impact it had on Burkina Faso. It was the profound implications for Africa as a whole. Across the continent, many nations grapple with similar challenges, burdened by crippling debt and external influence. Burkina Faso's success became a powerful symbol of possibility, challenging the notion that debt is an inescapable part of life for developing countries. It showed that financial independence isn't just a dream, but a tangible goal that can be realized with the right leadership and vision. Traoré's success inspired other African leaders to seek bold alternatives to dependence on foreign aid, proving that liberation from economic servitude is achievable. But how did Traoré manage to wipe out a $4.79 billion debt without external help? His strategy was not just revolutionary, but also methodical and strategic. Achieving this feat was no small task, but Traoré utilized Burkina Faso's natural resources, enforced strict economic reforms, diversified revenue streams, and fostered unity among the people. Every step was part of a long-term plan to secure the nation's economic sovereignty and pave the way for future prosperity. A key component of his strategy was harnessing Burkina Faso's vast gold reserves. As one of Africa's top gold producers, the country had immense untapped potential in its mining industry. For years, multinational corporations controlled the sector, extracting huge profits while providing little benefit to the nation. Traoré renegotiated mining contracts with these foreign corporations, asserting that the previous agreements were exploitative and unfair. His government demanded a larger share of the profits, making it clear that if these companies wished to continue operating in Burkina Faso, they would need to respect the country's sovereignty. Traoré's firm stance was supported by the people, giving his government leverage in negotiations. Additionally, illegal mining, which had thrived under weak enforcement, was brought under control. Traoré introduced measures to formalize these operations, requiring miners to register and pay taxes. This crackdown not only increased national revenue, but also improved working conditions and reduced environmental damage caused by illegal operations. In turn, the income generated from these efforts was channeled directly into debt repayment, turning Burkina Faso's gold reserves into a tool for financial freedom. But Traoré knew that increasing revenue alone wouldn't be enough to repay the nation's debt. He needed to ensure that government spending was responsible and purposeful. His administration launched a comprehensive review of government expenditures, identifying areas where funds were being misused or wasted. Among the first targets were frivolous expenses, including lavish spending on foreign trips and bloated administrative budgets. Ministries were instructed to streamline their operations, eliminating unnecessary spending while ensuring that every franc allocated served the country's most pressing needs. This wasn't about punishing the people through austerity. It was about prioritizing national development and ensuring that public funds directly contributed to the well-being of Burkina Faso citizens. Traoré's fiscal discipline set the stage for the country's economic recovery, and the resources freed from wasteful spending were reinvested into sectors that would propel the nation forward. Ultimately, Traoré's strategy not only enabled Burkina Faso to clear its national debt, but it also marked a turning point in the fight for African economic independence. By rejecting the cycle of dependency on foreign aid, Traoré has set a powerful example for the continent, showing that with bold leadership, unity, and strategic use of resources, African nations can break free from external control and pave the way for true sovereignty. In addition to clearing the national debt, the Traoré government took bold steps to restructure the public sector. Wages within the public sector, a significant portion of government expenditure, were adjusted to ensure fairness and transparency. The new policies aimed to stop overpayment and ensure that salaries were distributed equitably across all public servants. A major initiative was also launched to tackle corruption, which had long drained the country's resources. By establishing strict oversight and creating anti-corruption bodies, Traoré's administration sent a clear message: the era of impunity was over. Public officials found guilty of misappropriating public funds were held accountable, demonstrating a commitment to reform and financial integrity. However, Traoré understood that Burkina Faso's financial stability could not rely solely on its gold resources. The nation's economy needed diversification to reduce its dependence on the volatile global gold market. Agriculture, a key sector in Burkina Faso's economy, was modernized under Traoré's leadership. Farmers were provided with access to new seeds, fertilizers, and irrigation systems, leading to higher crop yields. Training programs in sustainable farming practices ensured that agricultural growth did not come at the expense of the environment. As a result, Burkina Faso began exporting surplus crops, boosting foreign exchange earnings and strengthening its economic standing. Additionally, Traoré recognized the potential of solar energy. Burkina Faso, with its abundant sunlight, was well positioned to harness solar power. Large-scale solar farms were established, which not only reduced the nation's energy costs but also decreased its dependence on foreign fuels. The surplus energy generated was exported to neighboring countries, creating another valuable source of income that further supported debt repayment. Small enterprises and local entrepreneurs were also central to Traoré's economic vision. His government provided grants and microloans to foster innovation, create jobs, and encourage entrepreneurship. These businesses contributed to the economy by generating income through exports and taxes, further boosting national revenue. Importantly, Traoré transformed debt repayment into a national project, engaging the entire population in the effort. His government launched public awareness campaigns to educate citizens about the importance of paying off the nation's debt and its long-term benefits. By promoting a sense of shared responsibility, the public was motivated to contribute to the national cause. In rural areas, community-based savings initiatives were established, enabling citizens to pool resources and invest in local projects such as schools or healthcare facilities. These cooperative efforts allowed communities to play an active role in improving their living standards while simultaneously supporting the country's debt repayment goals. Through these efforts, Traoré aimed to increase national prosperity. The government's economic and social development strategy aimed for an 8% annual growth rate, showing a clear vision for the country's future. To encourage domestic investment, Traoré introduced a bond program that allowed wealthy Burkinabe and local businesses to invest in the country's future. These bonds not only provided a return on investment, but also allowed the government to access immediate cash to pay down debt, ensuring that Burkina Faso could fund its own development. Despite rejecting traditional Western aid, Traoré did not isolate Burkina Faso from the global community. Instead, he sought partnerships that aligned with Burkina Faso's goals and respected its sovereignty. The country expanded its exports of manufactured goods and agricultural products, strengthening trade relations with neighboring nations and creating new opportunities for economic growth. In the end, Traoré's policies didn't just pay off the nation's debt. They paved the way for Burkina Faso to take its rightful place in the global economy, demonstrating to the world that African nations could break free from the shackles of dependency and build a prosperous, sovereign future. Through strategic resource management, social engagement, and international partnerships that respected Burkina Faso's autonomy, Traoré showed that the path to true independence was within reach for all African nations. Traoré's leadership shifted Burkina Faso away from dependence on distant markets, while simultaneously boosting national revenue. His strategy involved forging partnerships with nations and institutions that were willing to invest in the country's development without imposing exploitative conditions. Collaborations with countries like China focused on mutually beneficial projects, such as building roads and developing industries, all of which helped invigorate the economy. Central to Traoré's approach was transparency. His administration consistently provided updates on the nation's debt repayment progress, detailing how funds were allocated. This openness cultivated trust among citizens, who saw the tangible results of their collective efforts. Moreover, any misuse of public funds was quickly addressed, and independent audits were conducted to ensure that money was being used effectively. Traoré's emphasis on transparency not only guaranteed the responsible use of resources, but also strengthened the relationship between the government and the people by promoting a culture of accountability. Through these initiatives, Traoré successfully cleared Burkina Faso's debt and set the stage for a more resilient and independent economy. His strategy wasn't just about managing finances. It was about transforming the country's operations from resource management to effective governance. By reclaiming its natural resources, fostering national unity, and prioritizing sustainable development, Burkina Faso became a shining example of what can be achieved through visionary leadership and collective effort. But the impact of Traoré's success reached far beyond Burkina Faso. It had a profound effect on Africa as a whole. The continent has long struggled with underdevelopment, resource exploitation, and dependency, challenges that often seem insurmountable. Traoré's leadership demonstrated that these issues could be overcome. One of the key lessons from Burkina Faso's transformation is the importance of resource control. Despite Africa's wealth of natural resources, multinational corporations have historically drained the continent's riches, leaving the local population with little benefit. Traoré's renegotiation of mining contracts to ensure that a larger share of profits stayed within the country set a powerful precedent. It proved that African nations have the power to reclaim their resources and use them for the benefit of their own people. Another critical lesson is the importance of strong, principled leadership. Traoré's ability to unite the people, inspire trust, and make difficult decisions was central to Burkina Faso's success. His focus on transparency and accountability enhanced the relationship between the government and its citizens, creating a unified front that propelled the country forward. Other African nations can learn from this leadership style, adapting it to their own unique contexts. Most importantly, Traoré's achievements challenged the narrative of perpetual dependency. Africa has long been seen as a continent reliant on foreign aid, incapable of self-sustenance. However, Burkina Faso's success shattered this stereotype and demonstrated that economic independence is not only possible but within reach. This transformation is already sparking conversations across the continent. African leaders, activists, and citizens alike are now engaging in discussions on economic sovereignty, resource management, and self-determination. In the grand scheme of Africa's future, Burkina Faso's progress under Ibrahim Traoré is a defining moment. It is a reminder that with the right leadership, vision, and collective effort, African nations can overcome their challenges, reclaim their resources, and build a future where they are no longer dependent on foreign assistance, but instead chart their own course toward prosperity. Traoré's journey has become a symbol of hope, inspiring a new generation of Africans to believe in their potential and take control of their futures. However, his path was not without obstacles. Throughout his audacious efforts to secure Burkina Faso's financial independence, he faced resistance both at home and abroad. His push for debt repayment and sovereignty was criticized by detractors who argued that it would lead to social unrest and economic instability. On the international stage, major global players, particularly Western institutions, pressured him to abandon his course, fearing the loss of their influence. Despite these challenges, Traoré's resolve remained firm, driven by his unwavering belief in his vision for the country. One of the toughest hurdles he faced was overcoming national skepticism. Initially, many Burkinabés were hesitant, concerned that the sacrifices required to achieve financial independence would outweigh the benefits. Traoré countered this by prioritizing transparency. He regularly communicated the government's progress, engaged with local communities, and addressed their concerns, fostering a sense of unity and shared purpose. This approach helped build trust and support among the people, who gradually began to embrace the vision for a self-reliant Burkina Faso. Internationally, Traoré faced opposition from multinational mining companies that were accustomed to exploiting the country's resources without much regulation. Additionally, Western institutions, whose influence over Burkina Faso was threatened by his refusal of foreign aid, warned of severe consequences. Nevertheless, Traoré remained steadfast, refusing to compromise on his principles. His resilience, combined with the unwavering support of the Burkinabé people, ultimately led to the success of his plan. Ibrahim Traoré's legacy is one of transformation and empowerment. He redefined what it means for an African nation to be truly independent, demonstrating that financial sovereignty is not just a lofty ideal, but a tangible goal. Traoré's accomplishment goes beyond merely paying off debt. It's about empowering citizens, securing natural resources, and laying the groundwork for a sustainable future. Burkina Faso, under his leadership, became a symbol of resilience, determination, and possibility. His story is proof that even the smallest nations can achieve greatness when they dare to dream big. As Burkina Faso continues to build on the foundations laid by Traoré, his legacy will endure, inspiring not just the country but all of Africa. His example raises important questions. Can other African nations follow this path toward economic independence? Is it possible for the entire continent to become debt-free? Traoré's story provides a powerful reminder that with the right leadership, unity, and vision, these questions may no longer be impossible to answer. Tell us what you think in the comments section below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed, you're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change.